Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, George H.W. Bush, Clinton, and George W. Bush, as well as President Obama. Oppose this repeal bill.
All time of the gentleman from South Carolina has expired. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself the remaining time.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, America did not become great by accident. We are a great country because we continue to strive toward the protection and expansion of individual liberties in a way that people cannot find anywhere else in the world. Our system of free enterprise inspires people to pursue opportunity, to take responsibility for their lives, and to achieve success. Yet for the past 2 years, Congress and the administration have pushed an agenda that moves America in the opposite direction by eroding individual freedoms. It's part of a philosophy premised upon government siphoning more money, control, and power out of the private sector. And the health care bill we seek to repeal today is the tip of the spear. Mr. Speaker, let's make something clear. Both parties care deeply about health care. Likewise, Republicans have rejected the status quo. We simply disagree with our counterparts on the other side of the aisle that excessive government regulation and sweeping mandates on individuals and businesses are the right way to go about effecting the reforms Americans want. The construct of this bill is fundamentally unworkable. Instead of preserving the doctor-patient relationship, this legislation we seek to repeal is rooted in having federal bureaucrats come between patients and their doctors, limiting choices. If you go back to the health care debate last Congress, the President, then Speaker Pelosi, and Leader Reid often spoke of two goals. One, we should strive to lower costs. And two, if Americans liked the health insurance coverage they had, they should be able to keep it. Mr. Speaker, we believe in the aftermath of this bill's passage, these goals have not and cannot be met. Therefore, doesn't it stand to reason that we must repeal this bill and begin an honest debate about a better way forward? Of all the most disingenuous myths in this town, perhaps the biggest is the notion that repealing the health care bill will increase the deficit. Let's remember here, we are adding an open-ended entitlement. The new law is riddled with budget gimmicks that double-count savings, offset 6 years of benefits with 10 years of tax increases, and rely on cuts to Medicare and tax increases to fund a new entitlement. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office works hard to provide accurate accounting, but it is only able to score the legislation put in front of them, even if it includes budget gimmicks and fiscal shell games designed to hide its true cost. The reality is that this trillion-dollar new government entitlement will lead to a one-size-fits-all cure and put our country and our states on a path to bankruptcy. At a time when we need to do everything in our power to encourage job creation, the health care bill hangs around the necks of businesses and serves as a barrier to job creation. Mr. Speaker, if we want to deliver real results, the right way to go about health care reform is to lower costs and improve access. That is why, after the House passes this repeal of Obamacare, we will begin a two-step process of first conducting oversight of the law and the impact it's had on our economy and our health care system, and two, beginning work on a new vision to improve health care without bankrupting our country and taking away the health care that most Americans want and like. This majority is dedicated to achieving results for the American people. As we've said before, Mr. Speaker, we are a cut-and-grow Congress. We will cut spending and job-destroying regulation and grow private sector jobs in the economy. Repealing last year's health care law is a critical step. Mr. Speaker, we can do better, we will do better, and I urge my colleagues to support repeal, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to House Resolution 26, the previous question is ordered on the bill as amended. The question is on engrossment and third reading of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the Chair, the ayes have it. Third reading.
A bill to repeal the job-killing health care law and health care-related provisions in the Health Care and Education Reconciliation Act of 2010.
For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey seek
Mr.
recognition?
Speaker, I have at the desk a motion to recommit.
Is the gentleman opposed to the bill?
I am.
The gentleman qualifies. The clerk will report the motion. For what purpose does the Majority Leader rise?
I reserve a point of order.
Point of order is reserved. The clerk will report.
Mr. Andrews of New Jersey moves to recommit the bill, H.R. 2, to the Committees on Energy and Commerce, Ways and Means, and Education and the Workforce, with instructions to report the same back to the House forthwith with the following amendment. Add at the end the following new section, Section 3. Health care repeal shall not take effect unless a majority of members of U.S. House Representatives and a majority of the U.S. Senators waive FEHBP benefits. Section 2, including the repeal of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, Public Law 111-148, shall not take effect unless and until the Director of the Office of Personnel Management certifies to the Congress that a majority of the members of the House of Representatives and a majority of the members of the Senate have, as of the date that is 30 days after the date of initial passage of this Act, in the respective House, voluntarily and permanently withdrawn from any participation and waive all rights to participate as such a member in the federally funded Federal Employees Health Benefits Program, FEHBP, under Chapter 89 of Title V, United States Code, effective with the first month after the date of execution of such a withdrawal and waiver.
For what purpose, Majority Leader rise? The Majority Leader continues to reserve a point of order. The Chair recognizes the gentleman from New Jersey for 5 minutes in support of his motion. Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think we should begin by thanking Speaker Boehner and Leader Pelosi for leading us through a civil debate at such an important hour in our country's history, a moment of consequence. Unfortunately, one of the consequences of this debate is that we did not debate the issue that is most on the minds of the American people, which is unemployment and 15 million of our neighbors being unemployed. Having said that, there are lots of consequences to this repeal bill, and members should be aware of each one of them. If a woman with breast cancer or a man with diabetes loses his job or her job and tries to get another job, under the law that's in effect, the insurance company can't deny them coverage or charge them more for it because of their pre-existing condition. This bill repeals that protection. It makes it legal for the insurance company to say, we're sorry, we're not going to sell you health insurance because you have breast cancer. We're sorry, we're going to raise your premiums 5-fold because you have diabetes. These are serious, unwelcome consequences. Another consequence of serving in this institution is that we are the people's house. We are the elected people who are closest to the people, and therefore we're expected to most understand the shoes in which they walk every day. Many of us say these things at our town meetings. I've heard this from Republicans, from Democrats, from Tea Party members, from independents. Congress should live by the same rules it imposes on everyone else. I don't think you can go to a district in this country that people wouldn't embrace that idea. Indeed, on the website of our Speaker from the last term in the Congress, in his biography, you can read the following. It refers to the Congressional Accountability Act, which, I'm quoting, requires Congress to live under the same rules and regulations as the rest of the nation bears the unmistakable imprint of Speaker Boehner's drive to reform the House. Live under the same rules and regulations as the rest of the nation. So this motion to recommit says the following. In the spirit of that principle, members who support the repeal should live with its consequences. This repeal will become effective when a majority of this House and a majority of the other body are dismissed from membership in the Federal Employees Health Benefits Program that the taxpayers fund for the members of the House. There are serious consequences of this bill. We believe that repealing it is unfair and wrong, just plain wrong. But it would be even more plain wrong for those who support repeal to live by a different standard. So I would say to the members, the next time you're in a town meeting, the next time you encounter your constituents in your district, and they say, don't you agree that if you agree to impose a certain set of rules on me, that those same set of rules should apply to you? This will be the answer to their question. If you vote no, you're saying that the repeal that denies pre-existing conditions to others doesn't apply to you. If you vote no, you say that the repeal that doesn't let insurance companies impose a lifetime cap on your constituents' benefits imposes no cap on your benefits. If you believe that the consequences of our actions should be visited upon those we represent equally and on ourselves as well, then your vote should be yes. In the spirit of the People's House, in the spirit of walking in the shoes of those we're here to represent, the right vote on this motion to recommit is yes.
Gentleman yields back his time. Majority Leader wish to continue to reserve a point of order?
No, Mr. Speaker, I withdraw my reservation.
For what purpose does Majority Leader rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to the motion to recommit.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield myself the necessary time. Mr. Speaker, in beginning to respond to the minority's motion to recommit, all I can say is this is an attempt to derail the repeal of the Obamacare bill, without question. The positing of this motion to recommit and the substance of that recommit is almost inexplicable if one could be deemed to be offering a legitimate policy proposal. The notion that somehow the repeal position that the majority has taken, that frankly the majority of the American people desire, the notion that that is somehow connected with denying a better way forward, again, is inexplicable, and I think, again, Mr. Speaker, I would say is not a serious attempt to add towards how we get to a better way in health care. Now, the question before this body is simple. Do you support the new health care law? Yes or no? The motion to recommit is simply an effort to protect Obamacare from being repealed, period. If you think the new health care law will improve how health care is delivered in the U.S., then support the motion to recommit. But if you believe, as most Americans do, that the new health care law will put America on the wrong path, that the open-ended entitlement design of the new law will contribute to putting us on a path to bankruptcy, that the policies in the law will deny patients access to the care that they want and need, and if you believe that the new law will increase health care costs, not lower them, that the new law is generating great uncertainty for our businesses, hurting our economy, that the new law is unconstitutional, then vote against the motion to recommit. Voting against the motion to recommit is a vote to repeal the health care law, and I urge its defeat. Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Without objection, the previous question is ordered on the motion to recommit. The question is on the motion. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those opposed say no. Opinion of the chair, the noes have it. For our
Mr.
purposes,
Chairman,
gentleman
on that
from
I
New Jersey
demand the
rise.
yeas and nays.
Gentleman requests the yeas and nays. Those in support of the request will rise until counted. Sufficient number having arisen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their vote by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, the chair will reduce to 5 minutes the minimum time for any electronic vote on the question of passage.
After some 7 hours of debate, Republicans holding these votes to repeal the health care law that was passed by Congress last year. We want to get your take on this. Democrats call 202-585-3885, Republicans 202-585-3886, and Independents call 202-585-3887. A headline in Politico reads, "A repeal vote is just Republicans' first step on health care." We'll hear from the reporter about the story, then we'll take your calls.
Carrie Budoff-Brown is covering the health care repeal debate for Politico. You wrote that the real work of repeal begins immediately after today's vote. What's ahead on the House side of things?
Sure. Well, the committees take the ball now. They're supposed to run with this. They're supposed to come up with an alternative health care plan. That work will begin Thursday, actually, when the Judiciary Committee holds a hearing on medical malpractice lawsuits. The other 3 relevant committees have also pledged to move forward quickly on oversight, calling in administration officials to ask them questions, to draw up legislation. And later this year, we're going to see the Appropriations Committee take some of the spotlight, and they're going to look at ways to defund the health care law. So even though this vote is over, there's still a lot that Republicans are saying they will do to try to chip away at the law.
And on that appropriations process, you wrote that Republicans are looking to, quote, choke off funding. How do Democrats plan to respond to that?
By not approving or not voting for any of those cuts. The Senate will be the backstop in this process. I mean, the House can pass an appropriations bill that cuts funding, but it'll have a hard time passing the Senate, where Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid has said that he'll, block any repeal bills, and also any appropriations bill that doesn't fund health care. The health care law will face a tough road there, and any bill that goes to the president's desk has to be the same bill has to pass through both chambers. So you could see a showdown situation where the Senate refuses to budge, the House passes a different version, and those 2 competing chambers will have to be reconciled at some point.
Back to this health care repeal, though, is it a certainty that this bill won't be brought to the Senate floor?
It's pretty clear, at least from what Harry Reid has said, that he does not want to bring it up, or he will block it somehow. House Republican leaders are challenging him to do it, saying, "What do you have to worry about?" Clearly, they have a majority of senators, Democrats, and this repeal bill is unlikely to even get majority support in the Senate, given that the Democrats control it. But that could change. I think what the goal of Republicans right now is to keep up that attack, saying, Harry Reid given up or down votes. But I think we're unlikely to see that right now. It could change as the political climate goes in one direction or another in terms of how this law is viewed.
You also wrote in Politico about the possible vote, another vote this summer on repeal. Why would it come back?
Well, that was Fred Upton, the chairman of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. He said that it's possible that they could try for another repeal vote in the summer. Again, I think that's something they'll judge later on, depending on how these next few months go. If public opinion goes strongly in favor of the law, it's hard to see how that will come up again. Or if the economy continues to perform poorly, it'll be hard for Republicans to justify going back to it. But if public opinion continues to build against this law, they may have a case to call the repeal vote, or if they find the House Democrats who voted against the law back in March, if they're showing more willingness to vote for a repeal bill, they may try again trying to build up their numbers in terms of bipartisan support.
Carrie Budoff-Brown covering the health care debate for Politico. Read her work at Politico.com. Thanks for the update.
Thanks so much for having me.
To your calls now about repealing the health care law. Tanya, a Democrat from Florida.
Hi. I watched a good bit of this process today, and I don't understand how, at this point Republicans criticize Obama for not handling economic issues instead of and putting the medical issue first, but they're doing the same thing. I don't understand their purpose. They constantly use the rhetoric, Obamacare. I think it's really political purposes and not sincere. I think they're looking at 2012. And, I live in Florida, and, it's pretty rough here, but I do see the economy getting a little better. I was with 4 temp agencies and could not get placed anywhere, but recently I've been getting more phone calls as far as placement. So I think perhaps, I think if the Republicans had a plan to put in place, that perhaps this repeal may be successful, but what are you going to replace it with? Because the medical health care is broken. It is broken.
So just to let you know, if the health repeal passes today, Republicans plan to bring a resolution to the House floor tomorrow directing 4 House committees to come up with legislation that could replace the health care laws. Moving now to a Republican caller, Doug. Hi, Doug. Are you there? Okay, now a New York caller, Nick, a Democrat. Hey, Nick.
Thank you so much. I like what Tanya said. This is a political stunt. And look, the president should take this and his advisors should take this and run with it. Here's why. In the 2012 campaign, what is Obama's message? In 08, it was change. Now it can be protecting the agenda that we started. He can run as a populist saying, listen, we got something that the last 7 presidents plus were not able to do. And we saw numbers the other day that said that there's not 30 million uninsured now. There's some more 50 million uninsured. So I think that this is a great opportunity for the president to become populist in the campaign. He can still get the Democratic base, but he can also show the swing voters and your moderates that, hey, regardless of what you think about the bill, it is offering insurance to many Americans, and the Republicans don't really have a plan. I didn't hear it today, for the most part, to replace this bill. So it's a great chance for this president, and I hope he takes the opportunity. Thank you so much.
You can see the numbers on your screen. We also invite you to join the discussion online with Twitter and Facebook. You can write your comments at facebook.com/cspan, no hyphen in C-SPAN, and twitter.com/cspan, also again, no hyphen in C-SPAN. Now we go to Westerville, Ohio. Dana.
Hi, how are you this evening?
Good. What's your comment?
My comment is that we really need to step back and look at this repeal. I am for this repeal, but I don't think a lot of people realize that there is already a law on the books regarding medical services, and it comes under the Emergency Medical and Labor Act, which goes back and deals with an issue where a person had died like 100 feet away from a hospital. And this law was placed on the books by the Democrats some 30-some-odd years ago. And I have a daughter that is a registered nurse and works in an ER, and she sees on a daily basis the same people over and over and over again. And they do not get any less attention than anybody else that walks into an emergency room. As a matter of fact, they not only get very good care at this county hospital in Arizona, but they are also given an appointment with a specific doctor regarding their issue at a free clinic.
So Dana,
at the hospital.
How does that relate to the debate today?
Well, I think our government needs to stand back and look at what's already there. All we're doing is repeating ourselves.
Bob, an independent from out west of Fremont, California.
Hey, good afternoon. The point I just would like to make is the first thing that viewers and listeners need to understand that this is basically grandstanding, considering the balance of power in both the Senate and the Congress. The U.S. Senate will not pass this through. What they really should be watching is the legal case in the courts regarding the challenge to the individual mandate portion of PPACA, because that one court in Virginia has already struck it down. The Florida case will be coming up at the end of the year and could inevitably strike it down at that point also, at which point it would go into the U.S. Supreme Court. If it gets struck down there, then PPACA would suffer almost a lethal blow, because the individual mandate is basically the chassis that holds that car together. Without it, you've got nothing but a bucket of parts. So, and considering what's happening now in the states, they said Jerry Brown has just cut $1.5 billion out of Medicaid, and what people do not realize is that there's a federal matching grant of equal money. So basically $3 billion has been cut out of Medicaid in California. The numbers in New York is Andrew Cuomo cut out $2 billion out of Medicaid, which means it'll equal $4 billion. So I mean, the system will come under tremendous stress, the medical system, because the numbers of people enrolled in Medicaid is also is skyrocketing. The Physicians for a National Health Program pointed out that there was an increase of 6 million people to the Medicaid rolls in 2010.
Okay, thanks, Bob. We have to get to some other callers. Just a little bit about that mandate that Bob was talking about. One of the things that Republicans have pointed to as a reason for the repeal is a mandate under the law for most people to have health insurance starting in 2014. It's being challenged as unconstitutional in federal court. Charlotte, North Carolina, Beverly. Hi, Beverly.
Yes. How are you?
Good. Go ahead.
Yes, I was just calling to register my frustration with the Republican Party. I stay very involved in politics, and I write all 100 senators probably at least once a month and have relationships with them. And I've watched all the obstructionism and the fact that Republicans have nothing to offer the American people. And now that we finally have been passing all kinds of terrific legislation that actually benefit the American people, and the greatest one being health care, now they want to grandstand and repeal it just to try to make President Obama look bad. They don't have anything to offer the American people to replace it. I don't know why they couldn't have come before the House and said, we don't think parts of this bill are very good, and so let's sit down together in committee meetings and talk about which parts should stay and which parts should go, and let's work together and come up with a solution and then make amendments to the current law, because this does nothing. It's going nowhere, and it's never going to get to the Senate. And as of yesterday, ABC did a poll that showed that only 18% of the American population agree with the Republicans that it should be repealed. The rest of the nation is against what the Republicans are doing, and in fact, the mass majority of Americans want health care left alone, or they want it further expanded, especially in the area of mental health care after the shooting in Tucson.
I'm going to have to leave that there. Bet wrote to us on Facebook saying, we were paying $1,604 a month for insurance and it covered no medicines. Most people can't afford that much, and certainly not when you retire. So I say, way to go, Dems. The next call is from a Republican. Lynn, you're in Springfield, Illinois.
Hi. Well, your previous caller pretty well emulated everything that I was going to say, so I don't have anything much to add, to be honest with you. The only thing I can add is I am a retired federal employee. I have the Federal Employees Health Benefits Program, and I was notified that my monthly premiums were going up $40 a month since this law was passed. I agree we need health reform in this country. I believe that the current law has got some very, very good provisions in it, things that need to be there. I mean, pre-existing conditions, taking care of our children. But also by the same point, I believe that there's also, we're trying to take care of a lot of people who could also be making changes in their lifestyle to help take care of themselves and to do things, and we're trying to take care of people who, quite frankly, they don't care.
Andy, a Democrat from Andover, New Jersey. What's your comment, Andy? Oh, I think this is actually Ken from Florida. Hi, Ken.
Hi. Good afternoon. I did watch a lot of the debate today after I got back from work, and I noticed that a lot of the talk was around the Congressional Budget Office numbers. I don't know. I recall a lot of Congressional Budget Office numbers, and they tend to underestimate a lot of the, let's say, for war expenses and other government programs that have been put in place, such as Medicare, Medicaid.
Okay. Well, Ken, just so that everyone else knows what you're talking about, the Congressional Budget Office says that adopting this repeal, meaning getting rid of the health care law, would increase the deficit by $230 billion over 10 years and more than $1 trillion in the second 10 years.
Right, and I'd like to point out that most of the time they tend to underestimate expense. They have done so in the past historically, and they're pretty consistent about doing so. So, I mean, you know, even though I think that, you know, people should be looked after, I don't think this is the smart way to go about it, and I think it's disingenuous and maybe intellectually dishonest to use those numbers and to move things around and shuffle things like in such a way that seems like it's actually a benefit when actually maybe a cost. And currently, you know, we really can't afford to do stuff like this. I think there's cost-saving measures that could be used to go in different pursuits that we could look at that may help the country instead of putting us further in the hole. I just don't understand how everybody thinks that they can get something for nothing. It just doesn't happen that way.
Andy, now we're going to go to you, Democrat from Andover.
Hello. I would like to dedicate my comments to the recovery of Gabby Giffords. And I'll begin by saying that the Republicans had a promise to their constituents to perform this act today. But it's a wasted day where we have so many problems in this country that we could have been solving, they could have been solving down there rather than this grandstanding. But I understand their necessity. I just wish they didn't have to do it. Thank you very much.
Earlier today and over the last couple of days, Majority Leader Cantor has called on Senate Majority Leader Reid in the Senate to hold a vote on the repeal. Senator Reid has said that that won't happen. And even if there was a vote, the Associated Press writing today that opponents of the law would probably need 60 Senate votes to overturn it, which is a stretch given that Republicans have just 47 votes. We're going to go now to Nashville. Richard, hi.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Well, I would just like to say the Democrats can only point to about 8 or 10 things in this health care bill that they keep talking about, so maybe we ought to throw the other 23,000 pages away.
Going now to Oregon. Kyle, hi Kyle.
Hello. Like you said, I'm in Oregon in Peter DeFazio's 4th District. I'm concerned with the provision that gives $25 billion to set up nonprofit community health centers. Here in Bandon, a doctor's office in a one-building strip mall had their not-for-profit status pushed through by Peter DeFazio that because they have their blood tests done at a hospital, they're classified as a hospital. It's one doctor's office in a strip mall. With paperwork and help of a Congressman, Peter DeFazio, it turns in a paper equivalent of a hospital. These not-for-profits will have absolutely no oversight and complaint process. We had a situation in Lane County, Oregon, where a county commissioner granted federal housing money to a not-for-profit he sat on the board of. When we raised issues of they were invoicing the federal government for services not rendered, he investigated himself, decided he didn't do anything wrong. We brought this up to Peter DeFazio at the Coos Bay August 24th town hall meeting. He has a videotape of it. I was asking him whether he was going to investigate the county commissioner that had $1.7 billion show up in his private foundation. He leaped off his desk, rushed my wife, yelling and screaming, and made fun of her for trying to get help for being shot at by her landlord.
Hey, Kyle, can you relate that to the debate from today?
Okay. The health care bill has provisions for $25 billion to set up not-for-profit health care centers. These will have absolutely no oversight on them. If you complain about them not delivering services, you have nowhere to go.
Now, Sean, a Democrat from Trinidad, Colorado.
Yeah, I don't agree with the Republicans at all. They're over here knocking down something that's for the people, and whether it's right or wrong right now, we need to work on something that's going to gather the people together. We need to. I'm a low-class American that's been looking at just not getting anywhere in this life right now, and since I've seen Obama and fighting for our rights and for health care, it's given me faith back in this whole country. And if you're going to fight it, bring something to the table that's going to fix something. No, don't argue against something like a child and hope that something's going to get better. At least the Democrats are actually gathering together, asking the other side for help, not fighting them. They want their help.
We're going to try to get a couple more calls in as this vote winds down. Prince William, Virginia. Donna.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak, because my own Congressman Jerry Conley, blocked citizen input to this debate. The American people back in November placed a restraining order on the president and the majority in the House at the time, and it was a direct result that they did not agree with Obamacare. So
this vote, the yeas are 185, the noes are 245. The motion is not adopted. Question is on passage of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Majority Leader, as for those in support of the request will rise. A sufficient number having arisen, a recorded vote is ordered. This is a 5-minute vote.
A final passage vote on a bill to repeal the health care law that was passed last year that provides coverage to more than 30 million uninsured Americans. If this passes, Republican leaders plan to introduce a resolution tomorrow directing 4 House committees to come up with legislation that could replace the health care law. At this time, there's no plan for the Senate to take up the repeal.
On this vote, the yeas are 245, the noes are 189. The bill is passed, and without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Chair would remind all persons in the gallery they are here as the guests of the House, and that any manifestation of approval or disapproval of proceedings is in violation of the rules of the House. So that's what we want to do next. House will be in order. Chair would ask members to clear the well, take conversations outside the chamber. House will be in order. Chair requests that members remove audible conversation from the chamber. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Mr. Speaker, by direction of the Republican Conference, I offer a privileged resolution and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the concurrent resolution. Clerk will report the resolution.
House Resolution 42, resolved that the following named members be and are hereby elected to the following...
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be considered as read and printed in the record.
Is there objection? With that objection, it is so ordered. With that objection, the concurrent resolution is agreed to and a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. For what purpose, gentlelady from Florida, rise?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that when the House adjourns today, it adjourn to meet at 9 a.m. tomorrow.
With that objection, so ordered. Pursuant to Section 4C of House Resolution 5 of the 112th Congress, and the order of the House of January 5, 2011, the Chair announces the reappointment of the following individuals to serve as the governing board of the Office of Congressional Ethics.
Nominated by the Speaker with the concurrence of the Minority Leader, Mr. Porter J. Goss of Florida, Chairman, Mr. James M. Egan III of Colorado, subject to Section 1B 6B. Ms. Allison R. Hayward of Virginia, subject to Section 1B 6B. Mr. Bill Frenzel of Virginia, alternate, nominated by the Minority Leader with the concurrence of the Speaker, Mr. David Skaggs of Colorado, co-chairman. Mrs. Yvonne Braithwaite Burke of California, subject to the section of 1B 6B. Ms. Karen English of Arizona, subject to Section 1B 6B. Mr. Abner Mikva of Illinois, alternate.
Chair requests that members remove audible conversation from the chamber. Chair will entertain 1-minute requests. I don't see it. For what purpose, gentleman from Michigan rise? Without objection, gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. I ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, gentleman is recognized. Gentleman will suspend for just a second. Chair requests that the House come to order.
Thank you. I recently received a phone call from my childhood friend who told me he needed a place to stay. He was homeless. Homeless because he was a diabetic. Because he couldn't afford to pay for his hospital bills, he was put out of his home, he was evicted. Homeless because he was middle-aged and couldn't find an insurance company to provide him with coverage he could afford. I'm asking the American people to contact the U.S. Senate to let them know that this repeal of the health care reform law cannot stand. Our American people need this protection. The very nature of health insurance is to spread the risk. The more people that are insured, the lower cost of health insurance for all of us. We've got to maintain the health reform law. Thank you.
Chairman yields back. For what purpose, gentleman from Virginia rise?
Address the House for 1 minute.
Gentleman is recognized without objection.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Many members on the Democratic side of the aisle, when we were considering health care reform, wanted a public option where the federal government would run it. It would ultimately save hundreds of billions of dollars more, and in fact, it would not be subject to the profit incentive of private insurance companies. But we decided ultimately not to do that. What we did is to decide to model our health care reform after the Federal Employees Health Benefits Plan, where private insurance firms provide the coverage, you sign up for it, you have competition. We have competition now nationally and within the states in this plan, but it's modeled after what we ourselves provided for ourselves as members of Congress. And now the majority of the members of Congress, both Democratic and Republican, have this plan for themselves. We just had a recommittal motion where we had the opportunity to say, if you vote against this plan for your constituents, then you ought to decline it for yourselves. The vast majority of members took it for themselves, but declined to provide it for their constituents. That's hypocrisy, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Time of the gentleman's expired. For what purpose does the gentlelady from California seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that today, following legislative business and any special orders heretofore entered into, the following members may be permitted to address the House for 5 minutes, to revise and extend their remarks and include therein extraneous material. Mr. McDermott, Washington; Mr. Al Green, Texas; Mr. Farr, California; Ms. Christensen, Virgin Islands; Ms. Woolsey, California; and Ms. Kaptur, Ohio.
Without objection, so ordered.
I can't do it.
What purpose, gentleman from Indiana, rise?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that today, following legislative business and any special orders hereto entered into, the following members may be permitted to address the House, revise and extend their remarks, and include therein extraneous material. Mr. Poe, January 26, 5 minutes. Mr. Jones, January 26, 5 minutes. Mr. Fortenberry, today, 5 minutes. Mr. Pence, today, 5 minutes. Mr. Tom Graves, today, 5 minutes. Mr. McClintock, today, 5 minutes.
Without objection, so ordered. So you think we're ready to do this? House will be in order. Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 5, 2011, under a previous order of the House, the following members are recognized for 5 minutes each. The gentleman from Washington, Mr. McDermott. What purpose, gentleman from California, rise?
To take Mr. McDermott's place.
Gentleman from California asks unanimous consent to take the time from the gentleman from Washington. Is there objection? Without objection, the gentleman from California is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Yesterday, we lost a great American, a real hero. Sergeant Shriver died. My wife, Patty, and I were honored to be able to call Sarge our friend. He was a great mentor to both of us. Our lives were shaped, inspired, improved by the extraordinary vision and talent of Sergeant Shriver when he built the Peace Corps. We had the awesome experience to join the Peace Corps in its 3rd year and to be assigned to Ethiopia. Were it not for Shriver's leadership, this iconic and pure American program would never exist. Sergeant Shriver became our close friend as the years went by. With each meeting, our love for Sarge grew, as did our respect for his endless enthusiasm and desire to improve the status of all. In the 1990s, Patty had the opportunity to work closely with Sergeant Shriver to spread the Peace Corps to Eastern Europe, Asia, and South Africa. His enthusiasm once again motivated Americans to join the Peace Corps and serve men, women, and children in every part of the globe. America and the world will miss this compassionate and talented man. Patty and I send our prayers and condolences to his family, and we will personally miss this amazing individual. With that, I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from, on a previous order of the House, a gentleman from Texas, Mr. Poe, is recognized for 5 minutes. For what purpose, gentleman from North Carolina, rise?
Mr. Speaker, I ask that I might speak at this time.
Without objection, the gentleman from North Carolina is recognized in place of the gentleman from Texas.
Mr. Speaker, last night I stood here and spoke about my experience visiting Bethesda Naval Hospital and seeing the broken bodies of our country's young men and women. After that visit, I was very pleased to see an article this morning about Grover Norquist speaking out and encouraging fellow conservatives to speak out against the war in Afghanistan. The article is from the Huffington Post on January the 12th, and one sentence in particular came to my mind. Norquist also suggested that many prominent conservatives privately hold the view that the war in Afghanistan should end quickly. It is time for them to speak out publicly, Mr. Speaker. We need to become more engaged in the issue and make our feelings known. Mr. Speaker, I have mentioned before that a retired military general has been my advisor on Afghanistan for the past year. I'd like to share 2 points that he made in a recent email. The first point he made is, and I quote, "What is the end state we are looking to achieve? What are the measures of effectiveness? What is our exit strategy? Same old questions, no answers." The second point that the general made in his email to me: what do we say to the mother and father, to the wife or the last soldier or Marine killed to support a corrupt government and corrupt leader in a war that cannot be won? Speaker, I'm going to repeat that very quickly. From the retired general, what do we say to the mother and father, to the wife of the last soldier, Marine killed to support a corrupt government and corrupt leader in a war that cannot be won? These are valid points that we must think about. It is time that Congress and the American people look at what is really going on and what war really means. I would like to thank prominent conservative Grover Norquist for speaking out on Afghanistan. I hope this inspires others to do the same. History has shown that we cannot fix Afghanistan. It is our best interest to learn from history what is trying to teach us that no country has ever conquered Afghanistan. Mr. Speaker, I have beside me the pain of war, a broken body. It's a young soldier who has lost both legs and an arm, and his young wife taking him into a room in a wheelchair. This party of mine, which I'm very proud to be a Republican, needs to learn. And again, I want to thank Grover Norquist for speaking out and saying to conservatives, stop sending our boys and girls over there to come back with broken bodies or to come back in a coffin. It is time to end the war in Afghanistan. It is time for Mr. Obama to keep his word to the American people, and that is to bring them out in July of 2011. Mr. Speaker, before closing, I would like to say, as I always do, God, please continue to bless our men and women in uniform. God, please, in your loving arms, to hold the families who've given a child dying in Afghanistan and Iraq. God, please bless the House and Senate that we will do what is right in your eyes for your people. God, please give strength, wisdom, and courage to the President of the United States that he will do what is right for your people. And God, 3 times I will ask, please, please, God, continue to bless America. I yield back the balance of my time.
Jim Mills back. For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise?
Speaker, I send to the desk 2 privileged reports.